Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rekah Kwadash, Barakata. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that rule well. And peace and salutations to Yakim out there pushing this word in truth. This is the brother Raya with another video, and the Spirit's been real heavy on me lately to do videos about the coming famine of the word, because as you know, net neutrality ends on April 23rd of this month, and that's going to be a major step towards that famine of the word. So I'm going to get into this article on activistpost.com titled, Zuckerberg admits he's developing artificial intelligence to censor content. This week, we were treated to a veritable carnival attraction as Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the world, testified before Senate committees about privacy issues related to Facebook's handling of user data, besides highlighting the fact that most United States senators, and most people for that matter, do not understand Facebook's business model or the user agreement they've clearly consented to while using Facebook. The spectacle made one fact abundantly clear. Zuckerberg intends to use artificial intelligence to manage the censorship of hate speech on his platform, and calling the so-called white man the devil, saying America is going to be destroyed by nuclear missiles, and also saying all the other nations of the earth are beneath the Hebrew Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, is definitely considered hate speech if you're not in this truth. Over the 2 days of testimony, the plan for using algorithmic AI for potential censorship practices was discussed multiple times under the auspices of containing hate speech, fake news, election interference, discriminatory ads, and terrorist messaging. And I know a lot of you brothers have noticed that through the past they've always been trying to link us to terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda or other Islamic-based groups, and they'll use examples such as we're both against homosexuality, that we both want to see America, Babylon, or known as Babylon the Great, being destroyed, and us saying Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. They'll say that sounds real similar to Allah Akbar. You'll see how they try to link us to those groups, and that's one of the ways they're going to come against us to get us off those streets, because they're going to say, oh, look at these people, they're radical terrorists. Or also you might even see a false flag where you'll have some agent posing as a Hebrew Israelite, most likely a black Hebrew Israelite, doing a shooting or something like that, for them to further link it to us and get us off those streets. In fact, AI was mentioned at least 30 times. Zuckerberg claimed Facebook is 5 to 10 years away from a robust AI platform. And whenever they give big numbers like this, you know you got to subtract a little bit, because that's just them trying to push it way off into the future, so when they do come down with it, it'll be unexpected. All four of the other big five tech companies, Google, Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft, are also developing AI, many for the shared purposes of content control, and this pretty much covers everything you do online, from what you watch to what you buy, from what you read. For obvious reasons, this should worry civil liberties activists and anyone concerned about the erosion of First Amendment rights online. The encroaching specter of a corporate government propaganda alliance is not a conspiracy theory. Barely over a month ago, Facebook, Google, and Twitter testified before Congress to announce the launch of a counter-speech campaign in which positive and moderate posts will be targeted at people consuming and producing extremist or radical content. Leading back to the famine of the word, they're going to try to take away reliable news sources that we use to give us bubblegum dreams and lollipop articles, to dissuade us from thinking that these prophecies are coming to pass, and try to lull us into a false sense of security or something like that. But we know that through the Spirit that these prophecies must and will come to pass, and this just means we're going to have to push harder and harder to find reliable news sources. Like the other major social networks, Facebook has already been assailed by accusations of censorship against conservative and alternative news sources. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, or EEF, outlines some other examples of the company's overzealous censorship, in just the last year. High-profile journalists in Palestine, Vietnam, and Egypt have encountered a significant rise in content takedowns and account suspensions, with little explanation offered outside a generic community standards letter. And how many of you brothers get those community guideline strikes on your YouTube pages for the most insignificant things? Civil discourse about racism and harassment is often tagged as hate speech and censored, and that's an important thing that needs to be talked about, because you see how these devils, the so-called white people, the Edomites, are putting you jakes to death and putting the other nations to death all around the world through their wars and such. Reports of human rights violations in Syria and against Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar, for example, were taken down, despite the fact that this is essential journalist content about matters of significant global public concern. Esau's trying to cover up his dirty business. He's trying to get back to that day to where people just relied on CNN and Fox News to get their information, their daily propaganda. Especially now, since there's a lot more tension growing in the Middle East from those Syrian missile strikes. Anything could pop off at any second. Slacky brothers. Facebook now thinks AI will be the answer to all its woes. We started off in my dorm room with not a lot of resources and not having the AI technology to be able to proactively identify a lot of this stuff. Slakia. Zuckerberg said during his testimony, over the long term, building AI tools is going to be the scalable way to identify and root out most of this harmful content. To be clear, AI is already at work for Facebook. Today, as we sit here, 99% of ISIS and Al-Qaeda content that we take down on Facebook are AI system flags before any human sees it, Zuckerberg said. So like I said earlier, they're pushing real hard to link us to terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, which are all just fronts anyway for the U.S. government in Israel. But he admits that the linguistic nuances of hate speech will be one of the thornier problems for AI. Is it even possible for the information gatekeepers like Facebook and Google to use AI for content regulation without practicing censorship? No. As EEF notes, decision-making software tends to reflect the prejudices of its creators and, of course, the biases embedded in its data. Trying to keep this word from getting pushed. Because Esau knows that he hath but a short time, so he's going to come down in that great wrath. Of course, in an age when our government increasingly seems to be a corporatocracy with a revolving door between Silicon Valley and the State Department, so as you can see, these groups like Google and Amazon rub shoulders with the U.S. government. So it's all just a show to keep the average American asleep that these companies are privately owned and don't have an incentive to push what the government wants to be pushed. A discussion of corporate censorship invariably includes an acknowledgement of government propaganda, which was officially legalized in 2012 under Obama's NDAA, or the National Defense Authorization Act, which, if you read it, you know that any American can be held indefinitely in a prison camp for having an opinion that's contrary to the narrative of the U.S. government. And as you can see, we're getting closer and closer to things popping off with martial law, the economy collapsing, and a war in the Middle East. So they're going to try to censor as much contrarian opinions as possible. Is it realistic for us not to expect an overlap between what the government wants us to believe and what corporations allow as free speech? At one point during his testimony, a senator asked Zuckerberg whether he thinks Facebook is more trustworthy with user data than the government. After a long pause, Zuckerberg replied, yes. So you see, it's all bullshit. This moment has been completely overlooked, but Zuckerberg essentially confirmed in one word that despite all the talk of privacy violations, he still believes the government is worse on the issue of privacy. And after everything revealed to us by Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks, is he wrong? More importantly, since AI will harbor the biases and values of the entity that creates it, why would we assume that AI will make humans safer? AI At least early AI will do the bidding of its maker. While machines learning may be the future arbiter of free speech, it will be corporate and government programmers who determine its protocols, the famine of the word. And as we already know, the rights of citizens and the rights of technocrats are not the same. Slakia brothers. So as you can see, the doors are closing and closing for people to get this truth in 100% honesty. So we just got to keep pushing these videos out as much as we can, because soon they're going to be cut off. And a lot of you other people out there, you take this word for granted and you just watch our videos just to get a laugh out of it. But when things really start popping off and you can't find this word, you'll be looking for it, but unfortunately it'll be gone, and eventually you'll get put into one of those FEMA camps and chipped and then face that nuclear fire. Which brings me to Ezekiel chapter 33. I'm going to start at verse 30. Also, thou son of man, the children of thy people still are talking against thee by the walls and in the doors of the houses, and speak one to another, every one to his brother, saying, Come, I pray you, and hear what is the word that cometh forth from Yahweh. You drive-by Israelites that come by and say, Shalom, yeah, brother, and then you'll say something like Black Power, which is nothing we promote. This is all just a game to you, especially on our Facebook posts. You'll repost some of our videos where we're talking about the so-called black woman or calling the white man a devil, and you'll post those just to get likes and comments and be like, look at how crazy these Negroes are. And they come unto thee as the people cometh, and they sit before thee as my people, and they hear thy words, but they will not do them. You see us prophesying through prophesying what's going on in the news through these scriptures, and it should be made pretty clear, but you don't heed these words. You don't come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. You think, oh, everything's just going to be all right, and all you worry about is that Saturday night fever and what's going to happen on Empire the next week. For with their mouth they shew much love. Shalom, brothers! And then you drive off. But their heart goeth after their covetousness. They drive off into some folly like adultery, or going to smoke some weed, or kill their brother over some BS. And lo, thou art unto them as a very lovely song of one that hath a pleasant voice. Oh man, they are right. The so-called black woman is a devil and a bitch. Man, I love what these brothers are saying. Man, my old lady, she's always giving me trouble, and can play well on an instrument, for they hear thy words, but they do them not. Then you cower, and he's like, oh, baby, you know I don't feel that way. When your woman gets on you for watching these videos. And when this cometh to pass, these prophecies coming to pass, like that RFID chip and Jacob's trouble and martial law, lo, it will come, then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them. And you'll be looking for this word. But as we just read from that article, these major tech companies are trying to censor as much contrary opinion to what the U.S. government wants as possible, so you won't be able to find this word, and then you'll have to know that death by pain. But you'll eventually be born back into the kingdom, but your head's going to be down, and you're going to be pigeon-toed from shame. And I'm going to close it off with a classic, Amos chapter 8, verse 11. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh. And we're seeing it encroach more and more with each passing day. Again, with net neutrality ended on April 23rd, and these tech companies starting to censor so-called hate speech and terrorist content. So brothers, just push as many videos as you can. We're almost out of here. I hope this video was edifying, and until next time, Shalom.